This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going on to rule number 5 from the Joe Rogan Classic, that's what I'm going to call it, which was a post that I put up on Instagram just the other week with 10 rules that, I'm sure somebody else created it. But anyway, you guys know the deal. We've gone through a couple so far. We're up to number 5. So number 5, what we're looking at here is discipline is better, or discipline over motivation is probably a way to read it. It's not a maths equation. Either way, discipline over motivation. So one of the key things I want to point out with this, right, it says it's discipline over motivation, as in discipline is more important than motivation. What it doesn't mean is that motivation is useless. And I've definitely gone on to say motivation is useless multiple times and then given reasons for it. But what I really want to point out with this is that it's not saying motivation is useless, because it's not. Motivation can often be read as momentum. And you may have heard me say in the past, motivation literally means to move towards action, right? So motivation itself is important. However, motivation doesn't happen and then, we become successful. How do we stay motivated? How do we keep moving? Is that what you're asking me? That might be one of the ways to perceive it, because how do I keep moving? Well, I keep fucking moving. I keep doing something. And people go, oh, that's discipline. Right, and let's have a look at the word discipline for a second. It actually originates basically from a couple of different words, but basically I think it's a French word and an English word. Disciples, I can't pronounce it from the French way, but the English word that it correlates to is disciple, which means basically a student, right? A student of a wise person. In a religious context, it's one of the 12 apostles, so to speak, is a disciple. But let's look at the word just as a general term. It is a student, right? And so students have to keep repeating what they want to learn. So discipline means that you're a student of repetition. That's a one way to think about it. Because if we look at the things in our life that we do really, really well, and it may be perceived that we're being disciplined, you're just disciplined with your food or your training or work or whatever. It's like, if we look at the things we personally do really well, it's not really disciplined. We don't feel disciplined when we do it. We just do it. It's just a part of what we do. It's a part of who we are. It's gone through the 4 levels of knowing, which is the first level is know of, second level is know about, third level is relate with, but I'm pointing to the last one, right, which is embody. The things we're good at, we have learnt to embody, and we do it because we know of it, we know about it, we can relate with it, and we start to embody it over time based on repetition. Discipline is repeating something again and again and again and again and again until we almost become it. It becomes so habitual. It feels natural even though it's been nurtured, right? It becomes almost a part of who we are, but heavily a part of what we do. And so in this beautiful space, we start to see that that's just discipline, because we have been a student to repetition, and repetition is the mother of all skill. So if we want to develop a skill, we repeat it. And this comes into this idea of don't practice something until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. When you practice something until you can't get it wrong, you've ingrained it into the way that you move, you eat, you think, whatever the case might be. And this is the same thing. So in the gym, I often, when working with people, it's like technique is incomplete. We don't just tick a box of technique, right? Because technique is continually, even the word technique is kind of short, but as in a process, because we look at something and we go, it's not black and white to tick a box and that's the correct technique. Well, how do you deal with that under fatigue? How do you deal with that when you've got other shit on your mind? How do you deal with that when maybe you've got a bit of a niggly back or something? How do you deal with that when you're fatigued in a different way than in some other workouts, right? It's looking past the idea of technique and looking at how good is your kinesthetic awareness of yourself at all times, right? How is your body intelligence? Because this is now moves into a grey area where there's going to be different demands on our body all the time. Because if you look at all the fucking movements in the gym, okay, majority of the movements in the gym, a general gym, hardly any of them correlate to real life outside. So what are you really building technique for? An evenly weighted distributed barbell? An evenly weighted distributed barbell is one of the most odd things that you'll pick up, because you don't pick that shit up outside the gym, right? We pick up odd things outside the gym. This is the actual idea of functional training. The actual idea of functional training is learning how to function as a unit for lifting, running, moving, picking things up, throwing things, doing things that our body was actually designed to do. And so when we look at this, it's repeating patterns. Do you hear that again? Repeat patterns. Now you can go movement patterns or you can go thinking patterns. But whatever pattern we repeat, we will embody. And we'll be disciplined for that. We'll be the student of that. And so we have the opportunity whenever we train, but we also have the opportunity whenever we're being aware of our thoughts to start to be the student, be the disciple of our thoughts, be the disciple of movement. If we want to know how to be disciplined and get to a particular place, then we have to be the student of the thing we want to be disciplined in. This is the idea of discipline. And so when we are able to do that, when we're disciplined and we repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, right, over time, discipline equals freedom. Old mate Jocko Willink, I believe, was the person who mostly said that. But discipline equals freedom, because if we're disciplined with something, we might have freedom of movement. If we're disciplined with our training, and we're disciplined with learning about our kinesthetic awareness of our body, we'll have freedom of movement. If we're disciplined with our cash and we learn all about it, and we understand how to get it in, we understand where to budget it and what we need to spend money on, what we don't need to spend money on, what it wants, what it needs, then our discipline with our money allows us to have financial freedom. When we are a student, it equals freedom. Can you hear that? It's when we move into the space of I know. We stop being disciplined. We stop being the disciple. We stop being the student, and our brain registers I know as not I knowledge. It's I know. I know, the opposite of yes. And so when we can truly understand that, then we're able to shift into the space of looking at, hang on a sec, there is something here that I do know, but what don't I know? What am I missing? Where can I extend my learning? Where can I extend my discipline? Where can I extend my disciple? Because even looking at the word or the phrase, this is my discipline, it means that I've fucking done it for a while, that I've repeated it enough, that this is my training discipline. This is my martial arts discipline. This is my law discipline. Whatever the case might be, it's what I've been the student in for a period of time. And so the key thing with discipline is that it will, over time, equal freedom for whatever you're looking for. If we're disciplined with our food, over time it becomes just what we embody and how we move and how we eat, rather. And then we become free to choose how we want to be able to create and our meals and how we want to interact with food and our relationship with food. If we're not disciplined, if we don't learn about food and we don't become the student of food, food often then has us. We don't have food. And therefore we have emotional attachments. We go, I'm an emotional eater, as if our emotions are somehow more powerful than all of our very being, as opposed to just being a part of our being. So the key thing here is discipline. Being repeated is also married with knowledge, because you are the student, you are the disciple. And when we look at discipline as freedom, when we look at being the student, when we look at repeating, then that's when we can truly move into this space of freedom. It's not to discourage motivation. It's not to go discipline is everything. It means be the student and keep moving, and you'll get motivation and you'll become disciplined. And on that note, team, I'm done. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you found this podcast beneficial, it would mean the world to me if you would pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. Also, as some of you may know, if you follow me on Instagram or you have me on the Facebooks, I've also been talking about the Red Pill project that I have coming up. It's literally starting on the 14th of July, so in 10 days. I've only got one spot left. Now, it's a 10-week course. There's a whole heap of things involved in it, as well as weekly webinars on educational points, from personality types to thinking patterns, right through to 10 one-on-one coaching sessions. Now, those coaching sessions are not personal training sessions. This is saying that I've actually got international and interstate clients on. It's developmental performance, or you can think of it as mindset coaching, basically. On that note, team, if you want to find out more about it, please check out my socials, either at DDNix on Instagram or on Facebook. Interesting enough that will lead into the Mood Prep Live weekend, which is the 21st and 22nd of September as well. I'll get ticket stuff out for that shortly and more information. Otherwise, team, that is me done for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, peace and pizza, kick today in the dick, and slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
Is happiness to be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned. undone, but